I can't really put it into words how special that is when you see them, like Sean getting back on that mound, or Eric making his, finally making his debut to pro ball and succeeding like he did.
Welcome to episode 167 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. Taylor Burns might be the most active social media presence in Alberta baseball circles. Not only known for his takes on his beloved Edmonton Oilers, Burns has been busy building the brand of Absolute Human Performance and AHP Academy with videos of his athletes as well as his own advice and takes on strength and conditioning. That's become his passion as a certified strength and conditioning specialist after spending years as an athlete himself. Back in 2011, Burns had shoulder surgery to repair a torn labrum after his junior season in university, and he wasn't able to pitch again until he went to the University of Central Missouri in 2016-2017. That time off allowed him to find some new passions, including coaching and mentoring in the Edmonton and St. Albert regions. We've long wanted to have Taylor on the podcast to talk about his journey and felt like we were only scratching the surface in this candid conversation. Taylor, thanks so much for joining us here on the podcast.
Well, thanks a lot for having me.
Let's start off with your upbringing, an Edmonton area kid. How did you get into baseball in the first place, and who was maybe instrumental in getting you there and making that connection?
Man, born and raised in St. Albert, played my whole life in St. Albert. I'd probably say my dad, it's tough. I loved every sport when I was young, 5, 6, 7. I just loved sports, was drawn to them. I remember being young and loving the movie Sandlot. My dad played ball growing up, and by the time I was probably 10 or 11, my two favorite sports were baseball and hockey. And I just fell in love with the game and was lucky enough to have some really good experiences in Mosquito and Pee Wee, be on some really good teams, make some good friends, actually be able to win some provincials. And obviously that made it more fun and just loved the game more and more.
Do you remember the moment where you realized that this was more than just fun? Like, hey, maybe I could push college on this?
Yeah, I think kind of probably around bantam. I kind of had to make a choice between hockey and baseball, and I played all the school sports too, and really liked those. But what's funny is I wasn't the best player. I was decent. I played AAA and everything, but I just loved baseball. And yeah, it was probably around grade 9 where I went, okay, I want to play college baseball. I honestly can't really explain to you why. I just loved it, and I decided that's what I wanted to do.
Was it challenging given that we live in a hockey and football world first and foremost in this province, and that there's sort of that expectation of, okay, you got to chase that dream versus what feels sometimes like this impossible, hey, I'm a Canadian and I'm going to try to play baseball?
A little bit. I think, yeah, for sure. I didn't even know college baseball was really a thing until probably I was, ninth grade. I was lucky enough to, my dad sent me out with Dan Lajoie. He had a little, it was like 2 classroom portables out by Terrapines Golf Course, and he'd heard about this guy who was training baseball players in the winter, and started doing that a couple times a week. And then halfway through ninth grade, they moved into a bigger facility in St. Albert. And him and Sheen Bromley were my coaches. And I remember, Dan just basically talking about like college baseball and down in the US. And I started, that would be pretty cool. And got in an environment where I was with, 10 or 11 other players that sort of were like-minded, and we were going 6, 7 days a week. And then grade 10 was kind of a turning point where I really started to improve and truly dedicated myself to it, and made it a concrete goal, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Now, you end up making that dream happen. How tough was that to make it happen? Because even a decade removed, it wasn't as easy as it is today to get the attention of those college programs, or, the social media is a little bit different, obviously, than it was even a decade ago.
Yeah, it was completely different. I would say I talked, have lots of meetings with parents and kids, obviously, about the process to get down south. And when I played my third year midget, I think we went like 50-10. Went to nationals, and there was only two of us that went down, or three of us that went down and played college baseball that graduated. It was still like, it was very serious, but I would say only maybe there were the majority of players on a midget AAA baseball team weren't going to go play college baseball. Where I would say now, I would say 98, 99% of players at that level, like they're not going to be done baseball after that. It's a means to an end. They're trying to play at the next level.
How has that changed, or where did it change? Because it almost feels like overnight we went from, okay, we're getting a couple of kids in JUCO and that's it, to now here in Canada and even here in Alberta, you're seeing a multitude of guys who are not just playing college ball, they're playing good college ball.
Absolutely. I mean, I think kind of a cumulative effect. I mean, when I was so grade 10 was Dan Lajoie and Sheen, and then grade 11, that's when I met Cam Houston, and he was young, just came back, and he'd been an All-American. And so, in his generation, there were some guys that went down and actually, like Lars Davis, I think played at a big time Division I. Guys a little bit older than me, guy that I work with now, like Jason Chatwood, making it to like Gonzaga. Like that wasn't really a thing. And more, some more Canadians playing professionally and making it to the MLB. But guys like Cam Houston, who came back and started giving back and coaching, I think showed the next generation it was possible. And then right around that same time, like I think 2006 was Vauxhall's first year. 2009, 2008 was when Okotoks really started up and the Prospects Academy really started up. And before that, you hadn't seen anything like that. A, the price point, B, the value those programs gave in order to charge that amount. And it was, all of a sudden now there's 3 elite programs in the province where you're enrolling in order to play college baseball. So instead of just kind of these one-off sort of, if you're a really good player, maybe you can go down if if your coach has a personal connection. Suddenly there's 3 elite programs with, a total of 60 players, and all 60 are wanting to go down. And then it just, evolved from there as those guys went down and had success. Some of them, like me, I guess, came back and started coaching, and it's just snowballed. And now you're seeing, more guys in pro ball, tons and tons of guys at, big time Division I's, that kind of thing.
It's amazing. I keep referring to it as success breeds success, but you have those people coming back, yourself and others, who've said, you know what, I know that my pro dream is over. It's time to give back, and being able to do that. It's amazing how fast that trickle down effect really has been on the athletes of today, because I mean, these are machines that are coming out now.
Yeah. You're seeing, I think, better coaches, and the programs continue to evolve. It's providing, like you said, success breeds success. The competition's improving. So like when I went down, I mean, man, was it a wake up call. I could throw 84, 85 by people up here, and then I get down there and I've got to be like a crafty pitcher in order to succeed. And now guys are just throwing way, way harder, and each program is kind of pushing each other, and they're able to prepare their players, not just with training, but with the level of competition that they're going to probably see down south.
Let's get back to your time in college. And obviously one of the big aspects of this, and we're going to talk about it, is the shoulder injury. Walk us through how it all started for you and why it took so long for you to recuperate.
Oh man, I mean, I'll try and make a long story short. My story, like my overall story, is just way too long, but it actually started Christmas break of my sophomore year. I was playing at Hutch JUCO. Had a really, really strong fall. And I don't really know what happened on my second last day of Christmas break. Was doing bench press, kind of heard a pop, woke up the next day, couldn't even lift my arm. And it took me got back to Kansas mid-January. Season starts kind of late February. And it took me basically 4 or 5 weeks to get back to being able to throw. It never felt actually very good, but I got to a point where I could pitch. Kind of grinded through the season. Had a pretty good year as a team. We had a phenomenal year. We ended up going to the JUCO World Series and finishing third. And then I moved on. I didn't play summer ball. Tried to kind of recover and rehab, even though I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And then grinded through my junior season as well. But it got pretty bad, and eventually I had an MRI and had a surgery. I I could speak to a lot of different things that went wrong, but ultimately that was kind of the gateway into why I do what I do. I've said it a million times, but I never should have had surgery. I had a torn labrum. But if you look at the MRI, I presented with tendinosis in all 4 rotator cuff muscles.
Wow.
So definitely that was why I was symptomatic and presenting with so much pain. There was a lot of underlying maybe movement deficiencies that were leading to the injury reaching threshold. And a surgeon is just basically going to go, okay, you got a torn labrum. We need to repair that. Not to get too geeky, but ultimately for me, I am and was extremely hypermobile. So what that means is I have a lot of congenital laxity. My joints are very loose. When you tighten that labrum, okay, your labrum is basically like tissue around like your cuticle. It's going to surround that shoulder joint, and they tightened it really tight. And I just think, it went from being so loose to being uber tight. And when I went through the rehab program and started to throw and continued to try to throw, I still had pain. And that's probably because we never actually truly fixed the underlying issues that was causing my pain in the first place. And there came a point in time where I just had to move on. And I don't want to use the words give up, but I had to quit. It was time to do other things.
How tough was that on you mentally? Because we always talk about the physical aspect of it, but the mental game is half of what I know you deal with now when you're talking to young kids. But for you, what was that like?
For me, it's strange to think about this now. It was almost like a different person, but it was beyond difficult. I was in a dark, bad place. For about 1.5 years, if anybody who's listening has gone through the return to throw program, the traditional return to throw, for about 15 months, when I say I gave up or moved on, that was after 16 months of basically, I would do the 60-foot phase, 90-foot phase, 120-foot phase. And when I get to the 150, I'd throw a ball and my shoulder would just seize up and I wouldn't be able to lift my arm for a couple of days. And it was so bad that when I started throwing it, I'd have to go back to the 60-foot phase. It would take me about 4 weeks to get back to where I was. And then the same thing would happen to 150. So I never even got to the mound phase. And it was doing serious harm to my psyche, my mental health. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it couldn't have been much worse. I'm glad I was able to climb out of that hole and see that there was more to life than being a baseball player. And I myself wasn't just a baseball player, but it took me a long time to get out. And that experience is definitely, I guess, is a big part of why I'm doing what I do now.
You segued perfectly into my next question is, how did that help you kind of create that mindset to be able to get into coaching, but even into the entrepreneurship game, creating academies, doing all that kind of thing with this notion of devoted to driven athletes?
Right.
That's got to be a big part of what's created what you've been able to create.
For sure. I mean, it's cliche, but we talk about all the time is just be who you needed when you were younger. And that can mean lots of things. But for me, when I started getting into coaching at 22, right around like basically the same time, I knew how I was feeling. I had no plan B. Like I was 100% all in on baseball. And so when my goals and dreams ended, I needed to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do. And I just really, really didn't want anybody to feel how I was feeling at all. And that led me into strength and conditioning. It led me to, Eric Cressy, and doing tons and tons of research into, how did I get hurt? Maybe how was I training that I shouldn't have been training? What can we do differently from a throwing program standpoint, from a training standpoint, from a workload management standpoint, all those things to try my best to make sure that, a kid doesn't have his career injured or ended by injury.
It's amazing to me is one of the things that I'm taking away from this already is when it comes to the science part of it, it's not necessarily about returning it to an injury to normal. It's to your specific normal. Is that a good way of putting it to a certain extent when it comes to how you see the recuperation process for a lot of these young athletes?
Absolutely. I mean, everybody's going to be a little bit different. You have to assess each athlete, and everyone's going to be unique, and their needs are going to be unique. And so then your plan to help them, either optimize their training for performance or get them back to return to play and then return to perform. You need to meet them where they're at and come up with the best plan based on their specific situation. And when it comes to throwing and when it comes to shoulders, I say, shoulders are like snowflakes. Like it's an incredibly intricate, claustrophobic, complex joint and complex. The whole area. Like when I talk about shoulder, I'm talking about thoracic spine. I'm talking about everything that, the whole cervical area, you name it. There's a lot to it. And beyond that, you have to do some digging to, an athlete's experience, their performance history, their injury history, even, maybe they had some tendonitis back when they were, 14, 15. So, to answer your question, it's absolutely like, you can't cookie cut. Mm-hmm. You have principles, but then you have to go to each specific case to try and do your best.
Does it surprise you at how much you've kind of taken in that science aspect of it versus just being, the old school mentality of just power through the pain and all that kind of thing and just trying to create the best athlete? You're trying to kind of get into the science of it. Was that something that you had in mind when you first started this?
Yes, because I would say simultaneously as I was in that dark place, I fell in love with two things. I fell in love with coaching baseball, but I also fell in love with being a strength coach. Like I love to lift weights. I love to train not just baseball players. And when I started AHP, this is a little later, I didn't initially set out to necessarily train baseball athletes. I wanted to have a gym. And I didn't really know what it was going to be. If it ended up being, a bunch of middle-aged people that wanted to get in better shape, that was great by me. I love both of those areas. So, and then like Cressy is the absolute leader when it comes to, strength and conditioning coaches, not just in baseball, but in any area. And so, 2011, when I first came across this stuff, I was just fascinated by it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, to be able to, you have to be a good generalist, to be good at something specifically first. Mm-hmm. So I'm able to, or, in that way, you're able to draw upon lessons from other areas, whether the same principles apply to trying to make somebody faster or recover from a knee injury as a throwing injury. If I didn't understand the science, I shouldn't and wouldn't be working with athletes on their recovery. I wouldn't be qualified.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to that slogan that's front and center on your website. It's devoted to driven athletes. How much of what you do is focused on the intangibles, not necessarily the strength, the conditioning, the physical aspect of it, but the mental side as well?
I think for us, we want to be much more than just a gym, mm-hmm. For whoever comes in here. And it kind of goes back to our own experiences where I want to make sure if I have an athlete that's willing to work extremely hard, they're going to be able to work extremely hard intelligently. It's our job to make sure that they're doing the right work to actually move the needle and get better. If we have a kid who's willing to be, we have a driven athlete, all right, we need to be devoted to them and work at least as hard as them for them in order to help them achieve what they want to achieve. And then when you get into that, it's well beyond the physical conditioning. No doubt, everything we do in the weight room and from a skill side in baseball, it's massively important. But the mental game is huge. Helping them learn how to set goals, be better people, be better students, all that stuff's important. But ultimately, to me, why we're doing what we're doing, and whether it's coaching a baseball team or having it, the weight room and baseball to me are two phenomenal vessels. All they are is vessels, and to help kids become, great people. Like that's what matters to me much more, to prepare them to succeed at life. And if we can help somebody be a little bit of a better, friend or husband or wife one day, I think that's far more important than helping them reach their athletic goals, which of course is extremely important too.
A couple of athletes that we've had either on the podcast or spotlighted on over the last few weeks here, Eric Sabrowski and Sean Adamanchuk, a couple of people who are either recuperating from injury or have done the recuperation. How gratifying is it from your perspective to see these guys and girls who come through your program and do so exceptionally well after they've been with your program?
I mean, I can't really put it into words how special that is when you see them, like Sean getting back on that mound, or Eric making his, finally making his debut to pro ball and succeeding like he did. Because, it's not about me, but I actually do know the feeling. I know the feeling of not making it back. And then I went back 5.5 years later to University of Central Missouri, and that feeling of getting back out there and getting to compete and do what you love to do. And every single thing, all the time that has passed, every little thing that you have done in order to get back out there, and all the hard times and setbacks and everything that you've overcome to just do what you love most. I mean, it's been so special to see both those two guys, and then Chaz Wheatley too, who'd been hurt, to get them to get out there again. I don't know, it's cliche, but it's why we do what we do.
They've obviously learned a lot from you. Conversely, what have these athletes taught you about yourself and the way that you're going about your business?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think every athlete you come across is an opportunity. They present an opportunity to continue to be a better coach, and a better mentor, I guess, if you want to use that word. It's going to improve your ability to communicate. I'll speak to each of them individually, I guess, a little bit. Like with Eric, I'm an introvert, and if you know Eric's an extrovert, and he's a guy that's almost never in a bad mood. He's always, I sometimes kid with athletes, like, you're either a fountain or a drain. Like, that dude is almost always a fountain. He's bringing the energy. He's making people around him happier. He's super positive, even, if maybe he's going through a tough time. And that's definitely, and I've known Eric since he was 13. He's always been that way. I would say if I had to think of one big thing that he's taught me, that would be it. And then with Sean, I would say it's almost the opposite. And I'm not talking about negativity versus positivity, but the dude is stoic. He's able to, I think, remain very even keeled and just go about his work day in, day out, not get too low. And I think that's extremely valuable. You blend those two lessons, it's huge.
You started off as a one-man show with AHP, and now you've been able to bring in some friends and even some family. And I'm curious, what's it like doing all of this with your brother?
I'm not really sure how to answer that. Connor and I have an extremely, I can't even really explain the bond, the friendship, and the brotherhood we have, especially with some of the stuff, and it's continuing to grow because it's some of the stuff that we've gone through recently, or not even recently, with the last 7 years. But I'm 7 years older than him, so he won't like me saying this, but like, he's my baby brother. He will always be my kid brother. It was an extremely unique, special experience and opportunity for me when I came back home. Probably the biggest silver lining was getting to coach him grade 10 through his gap year and help him in whatever way I did or could have reach his goals and get to play college baseball. And that time, because I moved away when he was in 6th grade. So then I was kind of gone. And we kind of became friends through his high school years. And then now it's almost a similar experience, but different, where we're getting to work together, on a daily basis and do something we both love and are extremely passionate about. It's beyond special. And even more than that, it's extremely rewarding and special to me to see him doing such a good job and care so much about the athletes. And a little bit, I'm getting older. I just turned 32.
Old.
He's 25. And like, when I was 23, 24, 25, that's when I coached Connor and Eric, Jackson Work, guys like that, where when you're that age, and Cam Houston was like 32. And like, obviously at 32, we're still young. We can still relate to the players, but it's not quite the same. At 24, you're almost like their older brother. So seeing the relationship Connor has with our kids, and maybe reminding me of what it used to be like a little bit, it's awesome.
It's crazy to think that 32 is old. Man, oh man, I'm over the hill then. We mentioned Connor. Obviously, Ethan Elias was on the show a while back as well. How important has it been for you to be able to bring people in who complement your programming, or to be able to maybe, as we were talking off air about it, being able to either fill the gaps that they have or they fill the gaps that you have?
Yeah, I think with Ethan, I mean, for to be a whatever business it is, I think at a certain point you have to start hiring people better than you.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Ethan, I think is starting to pass me, or has passed me in terms of being a pitching coach. He's excelling. He's doing a phenomenal job. Him and I, it was a pretty seamless transition. This isn't the first year we've worked together, like with kids. He's been around part-time for a couple of years, but I trained him for, 6-7 years or whatever it was when he was playing professionally. And I've seen him grow, but he's able to bring things to the table from a pitching perspective that I'm just not able to. And he's doing a phenomenal job. And then I think he's interested in the other side of things a little bit, like the rehab, the shoulder health. And so, like you said, it's kind of like we were able to fill in each other's gaps.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, when you think about the expansion of your program and even beyond the baseball scope, you've mentioned the hockey side, but you've got athletes from all walks of life and all kinds of sports that are being involved here. What is your mindset on multi-sport? How do you try to make sure that everybody's kind of looking at the game that they're playing at from maybe a different perspective or different lens?
Man, the multi-sport thing, like, are you asking kind of in terms of like, should kids play multiple sports?
But also from a business perspective, being able to maybe branch out beyond, you mentioned Okotoks and Vauxhall is in their baseball programs, right? And here you are maybe blazing a different path where it's multi-sport from a business perspective too.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so from a business perspective, I mean, it's massive from a purely pragmatic standpoint, like from running a business and wanting to grow and be viable and all that stuff. Baseball, it makes up a massive portion of our clientele, but we're living in Edmonton. Mm-hmm. So there's a ton of hockey athletes. There's lots of other sports. And I love baseball, obviously, but I want to help any athlete that wants to reach their goals. And to be completely honest, I envision a future where, pretty much we have other sport academies at some point. And so we're making that leap this summer, where in the past, other than like our baseball athletes obviously started at the academy, but if you're a baseball player, you can also receive sport training in addition to your strength and conditioning. Until this summer, your volleyball, hockey, whatever, it's only strength and conditioning. So this will be the first time where we're able to offer a more integrated approach to a non-baseball athlete. And I'm really excited to kind of jump into the hockey program. And I've got a couple guys that I think are going to be great.
Do you think that is a big bonus for athletes, is to play the multi-sport game and try to do it as long as possible, to maybe be able to not be so hyper-focused on one sport or another?
I do. I think it's such a loaded question, though, because everybody's different. Like for me, I think some people would say, oh, because I quit everything after ninth grade. And they go, oh, you didn't play. But I did play multiple sports. So I played junior high volleyball, basketball, badminton. I played hockey growing up. I played soccer. I did everything. But I was a good athlete, not a great athlete. Had I not quit everything, there's no chance in the world I would have played college baseball. I just wasn't good enough. Mm-hmm. It took me from September all the way through March, the whole off season, going 6-7 days a week. And I just got to like 84 by grade 12. So everyone's different. And it's when we're as coaches and strength and conditioning coaches, like we're in service. So it's our job to give the best information, but ultimately do what the kid wants. Mm-hmm. So, but part of that is to be honest with kids. Sometimes you go, hey, if you want to play college baseball, you might need to quit everything. But if you've got a kid who's a super talented athlete, they can continue to play multiple sports all the way through high school, and they'll still be able to make it to that next level. So it kind of depends. But with that said, I absolutely think there are times it's too early to specialize. I didn't specialize until I was almost 16. So I think that kind of forms a rock bed for multiple skill sets. Number one, the ability to be, general preparation to be a good overall athlete, but also I think the mental side of things, the ability to compete, my ability, you can lean on some of your experiences when you're growing up. You've played in some important volleyball games, and you need to make a serve when it really matters. That's the exact same mental skill as making a pitch when you need to. Like 23-23 and you're on the serve line is the same thing. You got to clear your brain, trust yourself, hit a serve. It's the exact same thing as, executing a 2-2 breaking ball. So that's where I think multiple sports is massively important. The last thing I'll say on that is we're living in a different world these days where multi-sport seems to be misconstrued as organized. You can be a multi-sport athlete and play pickup basketball. It doesn't have to be everything is paid to play and with a team. So that would be the other thing. I played a ton of basketball growing up. I never really played organized basketball. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, it's fantastic stuff. And I love the individuality aspect of it. We try to get everybody to fit into these specific silos, and I'm not totally certain why. And so I think that leads into my next question, which is what's next for you, both on a personal level, but also from your business and program perspective?
For me and the program, I think, I definitely want to continue to hire more coaches, especially on the gym side of things, but the baseball academy too. So and some people on the admin side, so that I can get back to being in the trenches a little bit more. I do love working on the business a lot and studying and doing and being able to kind of be more like the general manager. But I would love to free up my time a little bit more to get back to coaching a little more and have the ability to our academy is going to Vegas. I don't think I'm going to go. Ethan and Connor, they're the head coaches of the academy. They're going to go obviously, but somebody's got to be here to coach the other sport athletes at the gym, unless I want to close it for a week. So for me, that's definitely a personal goal. Continue to, just get better every day at what I do. For our academy, we're just getting started. We're just scratching the surface. We're very excited for some of the things we have planned. This year we have our senior academy, and then our junior academy was 3 days a week, just practice and training. We're really excited to, add layers to that for next year. We're going to do, a competitive schedule in the fall and some US trips, in the spring and that program's kind of geared grade 9 to 11. And then, we are going to be moving into our third facility, a brand new facility, about 4 times the size, January of 2023. So really excited about that as well.
You hardly have anything on the go, I tell you. I don't know when you sleep, but anyways.
Just a little bit.
A couple more questions before we let you go here. First off, I was reading an article from a Canadian Baseball Network. This was quite a few years ago. I think it was 6 or 7 years ago. You penned to your 18-year-old self. So on that train of thought, what advice would you offer to those young athletes just starting out on their journeys, no matter the sport, hoping to maybe one day take it to the next level?
Oh man, some of the best advice I got, I remember when, Cam Houston, he was my high school coach, and he was instrumental for me in two ways. Number one, when he coached me in high school, and then also we coached prospects together, and he was a great mentor. But I remember the last thing he said to me, after our last game, and he just said, man, it's going to go so much faster than you think. And I only half believed him. And so that would be number one, is enjoy everything. And it's going to go so fast. Those 4 years are going to go so fast, or however long. And enjoy everything. Enjoy the monotony. Enjoy morning wakes. Enjoy the bus rides. You name it. There's nothing better than being on a team and getting to compete, and all the stuff that comes with that. Chasing your dream, the camaraderie of a family, a group working towards a common goal, and hanging out with the guys in the dorms, and the partying and the everything. I mean, it just isn't any better. Number two, I would say with that is, see how good you can get in those 4 years, and have fun, but don't have too much fun. So you want to enjoy it, but don't lose sight of the goal. And there's certain sacrifices that have to be made if you want to reach your goals. And then, above and beyond that, I would say, learn from others' mistakes. I think that's one of the most important things. If you want to, let's say I'm talking to a college athlete, you want to continue playing after that, you probably don't have enough time to only learn from your own mistakes. So be a sponge, pay attention to others' mistakes so that you can kind of springboard your development and learning a little bit quicker.
Fantastic stuff. Final question for you. You probably know what's coming. What does the game of baseball mean to you?
It's funny. I a little bit less than it used to, I would say. You asked me that 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I would say it's my whole life. I obviously still love it so much. It's given me, so much, so many great friendships, incredible memories. I think it's the best game in the world for learning who you are, developing all that stuff. I don't really know how to answer that. I think back to being 15, 16 and kind of making that decision that's what I wanted to do and being obsessed. And I'm probably still obsessed.
Well, fantastic again. Really appreciate all the time and all the thoughts. We've been meaning to do this for quite a while now, so I'm glad we were able to finally hack it out. We could go for days, I'm sure. So, Taylor, again, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much. Congratulations on all the success you've had to this point and continued success with AHP.
Oh, thanks, Joe. I really appreciate you having me on, and thank you for all that you guys are doing to, tell the stories of not just the pros, but everything that's going on in baseball in Alberta. There's been nothing really like it before, and I think it's awesome that you guys are telling a lot of stories that would have and have gone untold for a long time.
Thanks again to Taylor Burns for joining us this week, and thanks to all of you for downloading and listening. We'd also like to thank our Platinum supporters for all they do for us. AHP Academy is one of those supporters, joining us late last year. As mentioned, it's been great to see the success they've had already and looking forward to see what's next. You can head to ahpbaseball.com for more. And we'd also like to tip our caps to the Okotoks Dogs, another Platinum supporter. They've been with us from the very beginning as our very first sponsor. We can't wait for the 2022 WCBL season, and the Dogs will certainly be a big piece of it, including hosting the league's All-Star Game. For more information, you can go to dogsbaseball.ca. Again, thank you for all of your support, whether it's on social media, on our website at albertadugoutstories.com, or of course right here on Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast.